Want to listen to the podcast where we talk sports raw and unfiltered?
Mahomes looking to flip, takes it in for the touchdown.
Looking for a little something on the edgy side?
Keep your head out there. They're going to do dumb. Play our game. All right? Play hard, but stay poised.
You're about to be locked into the Unscripted podcast.
Let's be great. Let's be great.
Man. All these notes that I have down on my paper, like, completely go away quick, fast, in a hurry. Man, that's how quick that sports can get very interesting. All right. Thanks for everybody for taking time out of their busy day to listen to the Unscripted podcast. Thanks for checking it out on your local podcast platform. I always get that word. It becomes a tongue twister for me. But thanks for everybody listening to the podcast, as always. Shameless plug. You can follow me on Twitter at Brian Ain't Lying. Man. Interesting day. Like, so let me tell you something. So in life, when you do things, you say you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and you script everything, and then, like, even with your bills, you script your bills, and then they don't happen that way. And this is how the show's going to start off today, because this wasn't the plan 30 minutes ago, and then 30 minutes later it changed. As you can see, Doc Rivers is out as head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers. ESPN Woj reported it. I wanted to make sure he got the credit because I don't want nobody thinking I'm trying to be Woj. I have no sources at all. Zero. The Doc Rivers thing isn't a shocker. So if you're shocked about Doc Rivers being out of the Clippers as head coach, I just don't see it. I mean, think about it over the years. So the trade from Boston to LA, they initially started thinking like champions. They wanted to be championship contenders, and I mean, it didn't happen. And then you had Lob City, who came in the door. Lob City wanted to be something special. Well, then you had the arguments between Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. Teammates were mad that Austin Rivers was a part of the team because, again, at the end of the night, it's almost like AAU days. Like, if dad's the coach and son's the player, son's always going to get a little bit of he's going to cut some slack for his son, even though he said that he treated Austin Rivers the same way. Doc, to me, with this Clippers run, he had two awesome teams. Doc didn't have bad Clippers teams. He just wasn't able to get them to the promised land. And I think with both LA Clippers teams that he had, he wasn't able to get them there. Think about it, Lob City. So Lob City was supposed to be this, exciting thing. Chris Paul ooping all day to DeAndre, ooping all day to Blake Griffin. You had Jamal Crawford, who was a six-man coming off the bench, lighting everybody up. If you don't remember, they also had Eric Bledsoe, who was coming off the bench and doing dangerous things, and J.J. Redick, who was shooting your eyes out from three-point land, and they didn't make it to the NBA Finals. So dissension started happening, and Chris and Blake, they no longer were seeing eye to eye. So then, Doc said, okay, no problem. We're going to do things different. And it just blew up the whole team. So, Chris Paul's gone, and then Blake Griffin's traded to Detroit. And then, actually, before Blake was traded to Detroit, they wanted to center the franchise around Blake. And then randomly out the blue, Blake gets traded to Detroit. So I was like, I don't know what the Clippers were thinking. Well, I don't think Doc's seen this coming long term, but he ended up with Kawhi and Paul George and Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams. Ended up with a great Clippers team. Unfortunately, they weren't able to reach the destination that every team wants to reach the NBA Finals. But when you are penciled in, or you feel like you're being penciled into the finals, and you don't make it to your conference finals, and you blew a 3-1 lead, that's a big problem. For Doc, if you notice, I said this on one of the other podcasts, is that Game 7 was the game that threw me off a whole lot. I can tell you why Game 7 threw me off. Because the players looked like they gave up. Guys started walking around. Guys really didn't even care anymore. Doc's coaching from time to time can become very exhausting. When I say exhausting, I mean literally tired. It's old. It's the grit and grind of the 90s. That doesn't happen anymore. And again, you blew a 3-1 lead and you got whooped in Game 7. So it was like, where was the fight at? You brought Paul George in, which, again, I always will say this. I think that Kawhi Leonard's initial pitch was Kevin Durant. I'm going to say that. It'll come out in a couple of weeks. Kawhi Leonard wanted KD. KD said, no, I'm going to go to Brooklyn with Kyrie. Kyrie goes to Brooklyn, which was option number 2 for Kawhi Leonard. Okay? Option number 3 was Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was like, hey, I'm going to the Heat. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. D Wade done talked me into it. This is where I'm going. So what? His last option was, and the air quotes is that he demanded Paul George. I'm not buying that he demanded Paul George. Does anybody that's listening to the podcast, and you can join the chat box if you're on Facebook, does anybody, and I appreciate everybody listening on Facebook Live too as well, does anybody in the chat box believe that that Kawhi Leonard really wanted Paul George? I mean, so when you think about the years of Paul George, like he's jumped team from team. He hasn't been successful since like 2013, and it forced. And if Kawhi Leonard wanted Paul George, let's say this: if Kawhi Leonard wanted Paul George, he wanted Paul George for the offense because Kawhi wanted to be known as his favorite thing. He's a defensive guy. Unfortunately, come the playoffs, Kawhi Leonard has to be more of offense, less of defense. Because why? Playoff P was way off P. Playoff P was pitiful P. He was not there for the Clippers. Um, so I don't know if Doc stepped down. I don't know if Doc got fired. I mean, because everything is sketchy right now. It just says out as head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers. I don't have a destination for Rivers right now. I mean, we've been joking with it on Twitter a few minutes ago. We talked about the 76ers. My thing is, I think Doc will take a year off because I don't think that Sixers job is for him. I mean, he can do it. They have the talent. But I don't think that Sixers job is for him. And then Doc, at this point of his career, Doc isn't going to a rebuild. So Washington Wizards fans, if you think that Doc Rivers is going to a rebuild, think twice about it. Definitely think twice about it. Let's stay in LA because we are in LA right now. Because we're not physically in LA, but we're talking about the Clippers. Let's talk about the big brother Los Angeles Lakers, who took out the Denver Nuggets. LeBron James was not going to blow a 3-1 lead. Let me go ahead and go right there. Let me go ahead and not be afraid to go right there. LeBron James is not going to blow a 3-1 lead. And LeBron James is now headed to his 10th NBA Finals. And I know what everybody is going to say. Everybody's going to say, oh, he's 3-6 in the NBA Finals. Listen, the record don't mean anything. I'll clear that up. The record does mean something. But I didn't get the math all the way right because I didn't have time to do it before the podcast came on. But I think if LeBron's been in the league 17 years, this is his 10th NBA Finals. Isn't that like 56, 7, 58% of the time? Almost 58% of the time he has been in the NBA Finals. So think about this throughout their career. I am pretty sure that any NBA player right now would love to say for 58% of their career, they played in the NBA Finals. I get it. Guys like Quinn Cook could probably say it because he's been in the NBA Finals. I think every year he's been in the league. So I went through this thing on Facebook, which I don't like to bring debates up from Facebook because they just stay there to me. LeBron James fell off a little bit, right? So I said this. If he fell off a little bit, which I think he has fell off a little bit, he's still the best player in the world. So when I say this, I go back years and years ago. I used to criticize LeBron James. And I believe that I was fair to criticize him. I felt like Boston, to me, my opinion only, not yours, my opinion says Boston was the team that brought this dog out of LeBron. So after that, the initial time when they beat Boston 4-1, I was like, all right, there's something there, And then he came out there in 2012 and he beat Boston. To me, that was a good dagger Remember that three that put him up like about 8 points with like maybe 5-6 minutes to go. I think that was a big three, and that was a big change in LeBron James' game. Fast forward, this is that this man has taken every franchise that he's went with to the NBA Finals. So when I talk about LeBron, it's not about me being a fan. It's about me recognizing greatness. If you were born in the late '80s, you got no chance to see Michael Jordan in his prime. You caught Michael Jordan maybe towards the end of the prime, and then after the retirement, he came back and won a couple of championships. But you didn't really get a chance to see Mike in that prime. I have seen Kobe Bryant. I have seen LeBron James, and let me tell you something. I appreciate those two to the fullest because I can tell you why. Even though Kobe is no longer with us, once he left basketball, the first thing I said was, man, I'm just going to miss Bean. You know why you're going to miss Bean? Because of the greatness. When you talk about greatness, you mention people by first name. So you talk about Kareem, Wilt, Michael, Magic, Kobe, LeBron. You cannot duck greatness that is coming from the guy. The Lakers, to me, I didn't see them being in the NBA Finals this year. I knew that they had struggled the year with LeBron with the injury, and I said they would come back, and I said that the Clippers were the big brothers or taking over as the big brothers of the Western Conference, and it didn't happen. LeBron proved me wrong, and the Clippers aren't even there. And this is no slouch to Denver. Denver played well. They played as best as they could. When it came time to show your veteran leadership and your veteran experience, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's when LeBron James kicked it into another level. And think about it. This Lakers team is not a super team at all. This is not a super team. There's Anthony Davis and LeBron James, right? And then after that, you have a bunch of guys: the Rondos, the Kuzmas, the KCPs, JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard. LeBron does this very well. You guys call him the general manager half of the time. He goes and gets the right players and he plugs those guys in, and and it just works. So again, it's never me to always say I'm a LeBron fan. I just respect the greatness that I have watched over the last 17 years of this guy in the NBA. And again, man, shout out to the Denver Nuggets. I slandered them and I called them the regular season Nuggets. And even though they did lose the series, Denver showed me that next year it's on in the West. Plain and simple, it's on in the Western Conference. That's going to be a very competitive division, especially with Golden State coming back. All right. So I know everybody's listening to the podcast for today and I appreciate everybody listening on your local podcast platform. And if you're listening via Facebook Live, I appreciate you. You guys wanted me to talk about the Boston Celtics. Man. Oh, man. Woo. So Boston was eliminated last night, which, and I'll go deep into detail with this. Boston was eliminated by the Miami Heat last night, 125-113. The Miami Heat do win the series 4-2. Boston has reached their ceiling. Listen, I'm going to say this. Well, they've reached their ceiling with this coach. Brad Stevens, they've reached their ceiling with Brad Stevens. So Jaylen Brown, who is 23, Jason Tatum, who is 22. You maxed Kemba Walker, which now a little bit question marks beside it. I don't think Kemba was all that great in the playoffs. But again, the long layoff did hurt everybody, but no excuses. Kemba's a max player. He had to give you max results, and he didn't. The Celtics, let me first of all, congrats to the Miami Heat. That team came out of literally nowhere, but if you go back to maybe episode 1, episode 2, where I said that the Miami Heat were going to be the scariest team in the playoffs. Why? They had nothing to play for. Miami wasn't expected to be there. Miami was okay, if they get there, if they get past the first round, it's a bonus, okay? And then they get out, they sweep the Indiana Pacers. And if they get out the second round and, they'll lose in the conference finals. Well, they beat the Milwaukee Bucks. And yes, the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo, they beat the Bucks. They go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And yes, I believe in my heart of hearts, the Celtics blew Game 1 and Game 2. So if the Celtics don't blow 1 and 2, the series goes Boston wins 4-2. And that's what happened, and that was the complete difference in the series. And again, it's not taking nothing away. Tyler Hero, sensational off the bench. The guy who I was concerned about from the beginning was Bam Adebayo. I told everybody Bam's going to out-rebound the Celtics, and if Bam out-rebounds the Celtics, they're definitely in trouble. But then Bam got the scoring. So Bam was hitting, like, 16-foot jump shots. He was hitting floaters. Bam was all over the floor. So for Boston, they don't have many changes that they can make in the offseason. They are kind of stuck with this roster. The things that can always be frustrating is, and I mentioned how the Clippers quit on Doc Rivers in Game 7. The Celtics, I don't know if they quit, but something changed. Brad Stevens watched the Miami Heat go on a 26-6 run, and no timeout was burned. Listen, I think at one point in time the game was like maybe tied up at 102. Again, I don't keep all the numbers next to me. The game was probably tied up around 102. Okay, and if you run 8 straight points, you take a timeout, right? And if they run another 4, another 6, you take another timeout. Listen, you just burn timeouts until you don't have any more. You don't watch the onslaught continue. You don't watch that continuously happen. Things that can always frustrate me, not just as an NBA fan, not as a Celtics fan, as an NBA fan, as Marcus Smart took 13 three-pointers last night. Let me tell you this. Marcus Smart has improved this game. Marcus Smart should not be shooting 13 three-pointers. Matter of fact, let me clear something up about Marcus Smart. Nobody, unless you're Steph Curry or maybe a Damian Lillard, Klay Thompson, in that group, that category, you shoot 13 threes. Marcus Smart should not shoot those type of threes. I watched the Celtics give up, I guess, easier shots to make more difficult shots, if that makes sense. So instead of taking so Miami ran zone. So instead of stopping the zone and taking the floater, they wouldn't take the floater. The Celtics want to shoot the 3-ball. No. And if I'm Jaylen Brown, I demand the damn ball. I don't sit there and just let Marcus Smart just start shooting away. No, I demand the damn ball. Something's going to have to change with Boston. I think Brad Stevens has gotten them to their ceiling. That's his ceiling, the Eastern Conference Finals. I said it on the last podcast. Is that a bad ceiling? No. Is that a ceiling that will continuously be accepted? I would not accept just going to the Eastern Conference Finals as a great achievement, because Celtics fans, want to go on Twitter and be like, "Well, we made the Eastern Conference Finals, guys. We're just that one guy away. We're just that one step away." Listen, you've been saying you're one step away since 2017. You got to stop saying that. You got to make things happen, and I get it. Gordon Hayward getting injured in that first game as a Celtic, he's never been the same. I don't even think Hayward was supposed to play this series until like maybe Game 5, Game 6. Remember, he was hurt. He had the high ankle sprain. You're asking the guy to come back in the conference finals and be, I guess, great. Gordon Hayward, the injury hasn't been the same. He was never built on athleticism. He uses that move, that jab step to the basket. It's not really effective right now. It hasn't been effective over the last 2 seasons. The Celtics, to me, are hitting a roadblock, and I think that this could be it was the end for Doc Rivers. It could be the end for Brad Stevens. All right, good old NBA talk, man. The NBA Finals will be amazing. The Lakers and the Miami Heat will play LeBron versus Pat Riley. I'll give you my prediction. I took the Lakers in 6. I can't duck that. The Lakers in 6 games. LeBron's going to take the best guy on the floor, whoever they tend to be. If it's Jimmy Butler, or even if it's Bam Adebayo, which I think that Anthony Davis will do one hell of a job on. That's going to be a matchup to watch, is Bam versus AD. I'm definitely going to love to watch Bam and AD definitely play against each other. But yeah, my prediction says the Lakers in 6, and I want to know what everybody else thinks, because who's going to be the bold one to really believe that the Miami Heat can win in 7 games? And I'm not going to take nothing away from the Heat. I just think that the Lakers and the mission that LeBron is on. It's their time. And again, everybody, and I hate to say it because I'm a goddamn Celtics fan. And I hate to say it, man. Trust me, inside of me, inside my little heart, I think I'd rather see the Miami Heat win because I can live with that. I mean, I know a couple of Heat fans. I don't know many Heat fans, but Lakers fans, God, I know y'all. I know too many of y'all, and I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear about the Lakers winning another championship. All right, what we'll do is we'll take a quick break. Come on the other side of the break. Talk about some NFL Week 3 action, a couple of shockers, and some bold predictions going forward. Listening to the Unscripted podcast. Hang tight, folks.
Dimes are shiny and round. Nickels are also round.
This 28-year-old woman may sound a little strange to you and me, but to her 3-year-old daughter, she makes perfect sense.
Pennies are round too.
They are.
When you talk with your child, you build vocabulary, and learning starts long before school does. So follow their lead. Take everyday moments like an errand at the bank and turn them into learning moments.
Dollars are rectangles.
I like dollars.
Turn everyday moments into learning moments. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Hey, this is Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio. It's Freddie and Fitzsimmons. You can catch me from 9 p. to 1 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, and Sirius XM Channel 80. But when I'm not on the radio, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to is my man Brian Langford and the Unscripted podcast. You will not be sorry. Give it a listen. Give it a thought. He's going to make sure you're going to think plenty about what's going on in your life. So check it out. Brian Langford on the Unscripted podcast.
All right, Unscripted Podcast is back, and I appreciate everybody hanging over on Facebook Live. They don't get a chance to get the commercial breaks. But I always say, man, brother got to get something to drink. Shout out to my guy, Freddie Coleman from ESPN Radio for always dropping that smooth line there because he always listens to the Unscripted Podcast. Oh, man, that NBA talk, man, was draining. It was draining. I'm not going to lie to you. For the first time in a long time, I actually got drained talking about some sports. But that again, congrats to the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat. I look forward to seeing a good series, and I'm pretty sure that I know I'll enjoy it. I know I'll definitely enjoy it. I know everyone else will enjoy it as well. Week 3 in the National Football League. Man, if you're a Falcons fan, you may want to hit the X right now. Because I'm not even going to waste time talking about them so much. I don't understand. They blow another lead. They blow another double-digit lead. That Dan Quinn should. Matter of fact, I was going to send Dan Quinn my Uber code. I was going to Uber the guy home. He did not belong. He did not. He shouldn't be the head coach today. And I'll say this because I'm not trying to be confrontational. But the reason why, if this was a black head coach, he wouldn't have a job right now. Would not have a job right now. For him to go out and still be the Atlanta Falcons head coach, to me, is a disgrace. He does not belong on the sidelines coaching that team. He has not improved the team. They have went backwards. They don't look good. Offensively, they look okay. Defensively, they look brutal. Plain and simple. Not going to hide away from that. That was shocking. But the other thing shocking in that game was that the Chicago Bears, according to Mitchell Trubisky out the blue, they benched Mitch Trubisky for Nick Foles. And I know how everybody feels about Nick Foles because he won a Super Bowl with Philadelphia, and everybody was saying that, oh, yeah, Nick Foles is going to be, he'll probably back up Mitch all year long. No. Brian said this. Brian made it clear. Now, and yes, I'm talking in third person. I said about week 4, Nick Foles would be the starter for the Chicago Bears. He got in the game at week 3. He has been named the starter for the rest of the season, according to Matt Nagy going forward. Nick Foles is now the starter for the Chicago Bears. So what this means for Mitchell Trubisky is that come the offseason, he's going to be doing what? Looking for another team. Again, he just brought them back a week ago, but I told everybody that wasn't good enough. It was not going to be good enough for that organization. They wanted a spark, and they got the spark from Nick Foles, who finished the game 16-29, 188 yards, and 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. The same thing that Mitchell Trubisky did a week ago, but it looked like the team was more energized following the benching of Trubisky for Nick Foles. Um, wow. I'm getting a lot of tweets here, so again, if I ever black out, it's because I try to read tweets and everything during the podcast here. The Rams almost pulled off the third biggest comeback in NFL history, but they didn't, and it never happened. Cam Newton, let me just jump right there to that part. Cam Newton and the New England Patriots, like, and Cam wasn't great in the game, but Cam did what he had to do. He managed the game well. New England is the shocker. And I never thought New England was going to fall off, but they're 2-1, and the Las Vegas Raiders just like, so the Raiders go out and beat the Saints Monday night. They have this hangover, which I always talk about, and they went into Sunday's game and got blasted by the New England Patriots. Blasted by the Patriots, man. Kind of crazy. And golly, things happen too fast. Houston is bringing Earl Thomas in for a workout. Woo! There you go, Cowboys. I guess you won't bring him in, but oh god, I'll talk about the Cowboys in just a minute here. The Eagles and the Bengals go into a tie. A tie. Hey, Doug Peterson, let's start warming up that seat, baby. Again, teams go on these Super Bowl highs. Philadelphia, like I know somebody. I know 3 people who live in Philly that said they talked about that damn Super Bowl for up until now. Oh, well, we won the Super Bowl. And I'm like, that was a couple of years ago. That no longer matters to me. You need to win now. You're not winning now. It's not happening. God, Eagles fans are just brutal. Eagles fans are brutal. Of course, the Washington football team takes another loss. Let me tell you something here. Man, Ron Rivera, man, if he goes to Alex Smith, I think that smells the end for Dwayne Haskins. I think Haskins can be all right in the NFL. And let me tell you this, and I'm a Cowboys fan. I think Haskins can be okay. Everybody noticed the obvious. He stares down receivers. I don't know if you can break that habit, but I think you can work on that habit by telling him to look people off. Man, he just, I mean, you can't turn over the football and expect to still win the game. You can last in the game, but you had 3 interceptions. The run game, it wasn't there. I mean, they ran the ball, 16, 17, 19 times. No running back had over double-digit rushes. I would have loved to see them get a running back over double-digit rushes. I guess, Cleveland for the first time in a billion games are over 500. That won't last long. They're the Cleveland Browns. They find a way. Tom Brady, I don't want to discuss no more. I get tired of talking about Brady. I guess we can talk about the Dallas Cowboys because everybody says that, oh, yeah, you duck your Cowboys on your podcast. No, I don't duck the Cowboys on my podcast. They are what they are. Listen, that team is offensively talented. Um, they can do some special things, but they can't put it together. And they haven't addressed the defensive side of the ball. You look at their secondary. Xavier Woods peaked so much in the backfield. I mean, teams should be just destroying Xavier Woods. And Russell Wilson did it Sunday. He did exactly what other teams are going to do all year to Xavier Woods. Catch him peeking in the backfield and just destroy him. Dallas did make a run, and it gave me hope towards the end of the game as a Cowboys fan. I caught hope. And then, the hope changed very fast because we didn't score. Or I take that back. We took a field goal. It was missed extra points. I mean, oh man, Dallas can become very frustrating. Mike McCarthy hasn't started as well as I thought he was going to start. I think Mike McCarthy thinks sometimes that this is Green Bay. This is not Green Bay. You don't have that type of team. You don't have that type of franchise. You're playing with almost a semi-rebuild. Not a rebuild, a semi-rebuild. Offensively, they're there. You got to figure, CeeDee Lamb's a rookie. On the defensive side, they got a steal on Alden Smith. Alden Smith has been good as advertised. And I'm telling you this 1-year deal with Dallas, Dallas can kiss Alden Smith goodbye because somebody's going to say he can still play the game at a high level, and somebody's going to give Alden Smith a decent sized contract. On the Sunday night game, Green Bay moves to 3-0. The shocker could be the New Orleans Saints, who have moved to 1-2, 0-2 without Michael Thomas. Drew Brees honestly needs Michael Thomas. I mean, was he solid in the game? Yes, but you can tell that he still misses that go-to guy in Michael Thomas, who's possibly expected to play week 4. I want to say that's next week, right? Yeah, it looks like he wants to play in week 4. It'd be definitely interesting. I know a lot of us tend to bet, and we bet on games and we bet on the spreads. Man, at this point, man, just close your eyes and pick a game and pick the spread, and then that's what the point margin probably will be. I don't want to discredit this guy because I did not think that he would be this good this year, especially without the 12th man, was be Russell Wilson. 14 touchdowns through the first 3 weeks. That's an NFL record. Let me tell you something. And I always said this about Russ. So Russ looks to throw the ball down the field. He's not. And these were the things that guys like RG3 and they didn't get. They didn't look to throw the ball down the field. They wanted to just scramble, scramble, scramble. Nah, he scrambles. He gets his yards. He slides. But he can catch you peeking at him, wanting to basically take his head off, and he's going straight down the field. I think my MVP. I can't remember what my MVP was, but it wasn't Russell Wilson. My shocker again is still working around Arizona. But yeah, let Russ cook is something special going on with Russell Wilson. I did say Seattle would miss the playoffs, and guess what? I still got a whole season left, so don't start slandering me or emailing me or tweeting me or messaging me. Seattle isn't missing the playoffs. No, it could still happen. Do not just write them off. This NFL season, man, it's been tricky. I mean, from the injuries, the no fans thing, I'm lost at that. I'm not even talking about the Giants. Somebody just texted me and was like, "Why my Giants don't get any love?" That damn Giants scored 9 points. Please, please. His name is Daniel Jones. Don't you even text me and say your quarterback's name is Danny Dimes. He ain't no damn Danny Dimes. He throws. Oh my God, I hate when somebody gives a quarterback a nickname with nothing behind it. He's done nothing. So as we go into week 4, there has not been a firing yet. Which again, I'm not looking for nobody to lose their job. But listen, Adam Gase, Dan Quinn, possibly Matt Nagy, maybe Doug Peterson. Those guys have to start warming the chair up. In any sport, it's not what have you done? It's what have you done for me lately? Okay? So for all these teams that I named, nothing has been done lately. I think Adam Gase, to me, is in a bad position again. He's coaching the Jets. He's coaching Sam Darnold. No, you're not gonna succeed with Sam Darnold at quarterback. I can't believe at one time somebody had a nerve to start talking about, whoa, when they draft Sam Darnold, this guy could potentially be the next Tom Brady. Get out of here. I knew he was garbage being drafted. The Jets are going right back to the drawing board yet again. Listen, for God's sakes, I do want to see the Jets get good. I do want to see the Miami Dolphins get good. You know why? I want to see more of a competitive NFL, and I'm not getting it. I'm getting the same the same teams every year being good, the same teams every year being bad. Minnesota is 0-3. Mike Zimmer as well could be on their hot seat as well. This thing is starting to look very. Kirk Cousins, oh man, he got paid a lot of money. I'm not even going to waste my time. He got paid a lot of money to be. I mean, if we're all going to joke and make a joke about Tony Romo and say that, oh man, Romo was a mediocre quarterback. Romo was Pro Bowl at most. Romo wasn't great or whatever you want to say about Romo. Kirk Cousins, like. And it was years ago that I said if Kirk Cousins got away from Washington, he could be a great quarterback. And he is what he is. Kirk Cousins is Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's the head of that class. Godly, I was looking for a class to put him in. He's the head of that class. So you have Cousins, Jameis Winston, Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's how that class works. These guys can be inserted into the game to give you a spark. And that's all they're meant to do, is to give you a spark. Cousins can't get the job done. Minnesota, supposedly, I'm not going to start a rumor here, but I see that Minnesota is talking about possibly going after Dak Prescott next year, which could make it interesting for the Dallas Cowboys. All right, everybody knows that the baseball playoffs have started. I haven't watched baseball all year. All I know about baseball right now at this moment is the Houston Astros because they cheaters. But, it ain't cheating until you get caught in the sports. We got a good game tonight. Kansas City, Baltimore. Should see a high-scoring game. I'm gonna roll with the home team. I'm gonna roll with the Baltimore Ravens. Even though with no fans, they are still a tough team to beat in Baltimore. I think that Lamar Jackson wants to start telling Patrick Mahomes to wake up. You got some company up there at the top of the map. All right, so we have reached my favorite part of the show. Not my favorite part of the show, but the part where I can finally grasp for some air, fix some dinner. If you guys are listening to the podcast, again at night, you're probably eating dinner. If you're listening to it in the morning, you're eating breakfast. Hey, and when you at work, put your pods in your ear, or put your earbuds in. Listen to the podcast. You can ignore your supervisor and listen to this. I have gotten people to text me and say, man, you know what? I just take the first 35 minutes out of my day and listen to the podcast. I appreciate that. If you have iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe. Constructive criticism is always welcome. And as always, remember, God is love. Get some. And we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Unscripted Podcast. Peace.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Unscripted Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.